in the coming weeks and few months. Be right back. And we're live as we take a look at some of the cool weather that's been happening around the country and around the world as we are into that summer doldrums, as I talked about yesterday, but that doesn't mean that there can't be outlying weather events, those that are 2, 3, 4 sigma or standard deviations outside of normal. That kind of stuff has been happening all over. It would be nice though, to see more of the flooding stuff out of China because that has been exceptional. And all of my years, of being curious about weather and flooding and those kind of situations, 45 years or so, that stuff those videos that I've seen out of China have been just out there. All right, we'll start though in what could possibly be one of the more curious events coming up in the eastern U.S. We've been rather tame lately. Severe weather Europe, we started with them yesterday, and we'll probably do this kind of regularly, but honestly, did this actually refresh, or are we just looking at yesterday's news? Because that happens. Yep, same thing, same thing. The East dealing with some flooding, so we'll pop over to Australia, get down there, because Weather Zone has tweeted lately what we are seeing. The severe weather could hit parts of eastern Australia early next week, though it's still a bit early in the days, and quite a lot of variation between forecast models. And there's the storm wrapped up as we look off the coast of Queensland with the New Zealand 3 hours by air off to the east. So some good rains, and this is where the higher terrain is on that continent. And they've been able to pick up a little bit of snow, and there is a little more snow for that as well. So this is what the precip forecast looks like for Australia. It's on the edges, and that's where the water is, with all of the mountains here and then mountains here keeping the tropical water away. It's like we would need a complete change in the terrain to allow humidity, to allow moisture into the inland of Australia, which would then profoundly change their climate systems. All right, off to Twitter, have a look at that. And kind of one of the curious things that I have been dealing with in this business, knowing that we've had geoengineering going on and been kind of an advocate of that for some time, is how the government, how entities, how universities, because there's money involved, you'd be amazed at what science doesn't get to happen if you're paid not to see what's in front of your eyes. And if we take the unadulterated data from Bacora, Veroka in Wisconsin, mean annual temperatures, we've got about 130 some odd years of record here. And this is the trend, is in the purple. When we go to the blue, we can actually see what the adjusted or the homogenized data looks like. So there's a completely different trend. And once you homogenize the data, then what was warmer before now becomes cold. So there's an absolute algorithm that they run all data through. And if we're truly honestly going to get to the bottom of this climate crisis or this climate issue, all data's got to be open source. Without exception, all continents, tree rings, ice core data, air temperatures, all of that has to be open source and available to any kind of data mining. The other thing that's got to happen is that we see climate models also open source, so we can see the errors, we can have more eyes on the scene. And until that happens, I have no hope. No hope. This will remain a political agenda with a political outcome, which in my eyes is about income distribution and a further weakening of the economies of the West, although we can run on limitless energy if they just allow us. They have not allowed us that freedom to move out that way. All right, Eric Webb showing us about the NMME forecast and about the 2020 hurricane season, what it looks like against other years. And precip anomaly. This is going to be amazing, utterly epic as we see let's just say it's going to be an active season. We'll get into that a little bit tomorrow as we get more data from that. All right, the National Hurricane Center monitoring 2 other disturbances in the Eastern Pacific that could become tropical depressions within the next 5 days. And then investigative area number 98L tracking just off the North Carolina and Mid-Atlantic coastlines through Friday and likely to organize a storm capable of causing flash flooding, high surf, and gusty winds. This baby will be named May. That will be May. Tropical update, this also concerning Tropical Storm May. As we see the GFS ensembles locked into a disturbance developing into a weak tropical cyclone with impacts largely over the coastal northeast. So that's this right in through here from the Carolinas through eastern North Carolina and then up the eastern seaboard with another option for some development, but it looks like it kind of peters out would be the most appropriate scientific term. Look at this. We've got, I'm going to guess, because I just didn't have time to Google this baby, a volcano out in the North Pacific, probably just off the coast of Japan. This being the name, I even practiced this. I had some Nishimomisha. Somebody will get it right. And that's continuing to spew off into the atmosphere. All right, risks of severe weather across northern Kansas, Nebraska, and then into the upper Mississippi plains. And then one of our favorite hurricane chasers, Josh Morganman, said, you know, there's nothing going on in the Gulf of Mexico, and he's off on his typical annual I believe he's even got a series on the History Channel for hurricane chasing. He decided to go visit Death Valley, and this being sub-sea level, I think minus 120 or 282 feet below sea level, and the hottest, harshest place on Earth, Badwater Basin in Death Valley. And if you've ever wondered what that place looks like, well, here's a picture. There's hardly a blade of vegetation. It does get a little rain, but just obviously not enough to keep things green for a while. All right, here's a quick iPhone edit of Comet C or 2020/F3 NEOWISE. It was named NEOWISE after the discoverer. And sometimes these are like Pan-STARRS, which is a sky surveillance satellite system, or excuse me, telescope system. And NEOWISE similar with that, with a bright moon lighting up the desert from Nogales, Arizona this morning. Stellar, another photograph. So just kind of crazy. Oh, and of course, you were warned. 2020 is here. All right, let's come on over here and back to Australia for just a wee little bit. And I can't really zoom in that far. I really can't. What I'm curious about here on the continent of Australia is the developing of an upper level low that will cut off, kind of run south of the population centers and come off the Gold Coast at some point in about the next 5 days by Monday. All right, temperatures across the nation, hot, West Texas, all the way through Kansas, into the mid-Mississippi to upper Mississippi Valley with temperatures 80s and 90s. I'm just going to say it's summer. It's summer. There's a cool front right in through here, and you can see that easily with the temperature contrast. We'll throw in the dew point, and there's your cool front. Dry air behind it. You get it Alberta and Saskatchewan. It's cooler with north winds at 20 to 30 with some temperatures even in the mid-50s to mid-60s. So it's a blustery summer evening in Alberta, Saskatchewan. Manitoba, a little bit warmer because the cool front has not just got through there. 70s common through Idaho and Wyoming, some 80s as we get farther south. Then we get into the high plains of Colorado, and it's just plain hot. We've got low 100s, even low 100s in western Kansas and the Panhandle of New Mexico, where we're decidedly above 100 degrees. And there's the satellite imagery for the day. We continue to see a little bit of some dry weather in the west. That's in place, but it's this guy. This guy is going to end up to be Faye, or this gal, if we wanted to be appropriate. But that's really kind of nothing to little zoom in at. We do have a few chemtrails coming into the far Pacific Northwest, but there's just not a lot happening across the U.S. on this day. Even into severe weather. I had a tornado warning, in Minnesota associated with this other storm. Otherwise, some scattered stuff in the southeast, but it was this guy that they had a warning on a little bit ago. But these are all winding down. The dynamic energy to support this severe weather here is just gone. It's kind of running out ahead of it, slipping up into Canada, leaving just a few popcorn-like thunderstorms out there, leaving some pretty good rains. We'll get an update on the drought monitor come tomorrow. We've had some good rains in the last 6-7 days in Wyoming, but more so in the Dakotas, eastern Montana, And then some of the high plains have seen some good wet thunderstorms. So I'd anticipate to see some drought removal from there, even in just south of Dallas, 4 to 8, even an isolated 12-inch rainfall total will show up there. All right, as far as the national forecast, the big news is going to be the heat as we move on into the holiday weekend. Not the holiday weekend, but just plain up the weekend. And there's some of our temperatures where we've got heat indices above 105 would be in this bright fuchsia, and then even hotter yet as we cross 115 in Shreveport, where where we're going to be dealing with some record heat. So by Sunday, let's do that. Look at all of those record highs: 105, 107, 108, 109, 110. Kingman, Arizona at 110. That ties the record high. The period of record is from 1901, so that's 120 years nearly. So plenty of heat gone down in that direction. And then this crazy high pressure that's in place, we'll watch it run from here, begins to show up right through here, and then we get a nice low come in off the Pacific and keeping Canada cool. They have been so wet, and this will soak them once again. Crop-wise, up in Canada, I'm a little concerned. I'm truly a little concerned. They're just staying so cool, so wet. And I think ultimately we're gonna struggle to get crops to maturity with as cool as it has been, and then farther south than that, it's going to turn very dry and rather hot. So we may see crops actually burning up here because we're barely just getting enough heat, enough water to keep those going. All right, that's going to be it for the day. Big crowd there. Yeah, big crowd. Can't wait to get to my own page where my weather audience is, because this was actually for you guys, my weather fans. So I look forward to having that happen rather soon. All right, guys, take care. See you tomorrow.